Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board Work Session and Special Meeting for January 7th, 2020. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That is all wound up funny, but... all right, so before we start our work session agenda, I wanted to thank all of you, as well as our family and friends, that joined me and my fellow elected officials on New Year's Day for the 2020 inauguration for the town and village of Ossining. It was a great opportunity to reflect upon our goals for the community and start the new year fresh. For those of you that attended, as I was sworn in for my third term as town supervisor, I shared that one of my main priorities this year will be the 2020 census and ensuring that Ossining gets counted accurately this time around. An accurate count will ensure we receive our fair share of funding on the county, state, and federal level, with literally millions of dollars on the line. It's so important that we all do our part to complete the census questionnaire and ourselves, and also to encourage our friends, family members, and neighbors to do the same. Here in the town of Ossining, we have partnered with the village of Ossining to form the Ossining Counts Complete Count Committee with the sole focus of ensuring an accurate count during this 2020 census. The Village of Briarcliff Manor has also formed a full count for Briarcliff Committee, and we look forward to working with our partners in Briarcliff on these efforts as well. We know in 2010, Ossining was not counted accurately, and we simply cannot afford to allow that to happen again. The census also employs many people throughout the process. Visit 2020census.gov to learn more, and I'm hoping that we'll hear a little bit more about that today. So with that in mind, as our top priority, or at least as one of our top priorities for the 2020 year, we have scheduled Norma Drummond, Westchester County Commissioner of Planning, to join us at our first public meeting of the year to deliver a presentation to the town board and the community about the importance of the 2020 census and some of the details about how it differs from years past. As a side note, if you still find yourself looking for even more information on the census after Commissioner Drummond's presentation, the Ossining School District is hosting a Census 2020 informational meeting at the Ossining High School Library tomorrow evening, January 8th at 7 p.m. So without further ado, Commissioner Drummond, please join us. And I think we're going to turn some lights out, and we have a PowerPoint presentation, so we will take up. And I'm going to come over to this side so we have even balance. Grab my tea. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. Census 2020, as you mentioned, Supervisor Levenberg, is so important that we are making it a point to get around to every municipality to make sure that we get the message out that Census 2020 is coming. My message is, why is it important to Westchester? Why is it important to every municipality to stand up and take notice about the fact that it's coming? You accurately noted that 2010, Ossining likely was not counted. Portchester was probably not counted well. There were many municipalities that it was not until after the data came out that we kind of stood up and said, something's wrong with these numbers. And so that's why it's just so important that we get out there and start considering it early and ahead of time. So we are, as of today, 82 days away from census. April 1st is Census Day. So it's important certainly that we continue to remind everybody that the census is coming. Because they're not going to wait until April 1st to respond to the census. They're going to actually start getting information a lot earlier. But the census itself is mandated by the United States Constitution. We have been doing censuses since 1790. So this is the 24th decennial census. They are done every 10 years by the Department of Commerce through the Census Bureau. Census is important because it, for New York particularly, it equals how many, or it speaks to how many seats we will get in the House of Representatives. There are 435 seats available across the country. New York has been losing seats. The projection is that we may even lose another seat after the 2020 census. So it's going to be really important for us to make sure we get every person counted so we don't lose those seats in Congress. More importantly, though, it is responsible for the distribution of money, of funds to local municipalities. The George Washington Institute of Policy did a report that was released in December of 2017 that spoke to the fact that $880 billion is distributed based on census data every year. The Census Bureau itself says that for every person that is not counted, it is a loss to the local municipalities, including the county, of $2,500 a year per person. So just 400 people not getting counted is a loss of $1 million a year. Our guess, Portchester at least, was they were undercounted by thousands, not hundreds, by thousands, and they've been living with that number for 10 years. Your sales tax distribution from the county is based on, right now, is still based on 2010 data. You will be using these numbers for the next 10 years. It's so important for all of us to make sure we get an accurate count. Certainly it guides our decision making as well. Do we need new schools? Can we close a school? That sort of information all gets driven by census data. But really, I want to focus on what's new, and why it's important, and why we're worried. So what's new for the Census 2020 is you will not be getting a paper form in the mail to you this time around, where the Census Bureau is encouraging everybody to respond through the internet, either on your smartphone, or you can even call up the Census Bureau to respond to the census. You will get an invitation to respond to the census in March. Around the middle of March, the Census Bureau will start sending out mailings. The first one, just a letter with a code for your housing unit. You will not get a paper census form to complete. Imagine all of our senior citizens who have been filling out censuses on paper for years are going to be quite confused if they don't hear ahead of time that the census is not going to be available on paper. And imagine all the people who don't have access to the internet at their homes. We have to, again, get that message out that there are going to be public, what we're going to call census hubs. There's going to be public areas with computers. We're working with the Westchester Library System, and we're going to be hoping that a lot of the local municipalities would make some of their computers available in community centers or other places. But we do, again, have to get the word out that this will be our first census where people will have the opportunity to respond online. It will be encouraged to respond online. They will be able to use their smartphone, by the way. We're hoping to get the younger adults to respond because they'll be able to do it right on their smartphone. But this census is also a little bit different in that the Census Bureau itself will be able to talk to your neighbors or your building managers to be able to find out how many people live in specific units if after multiple attempts they can't get any response at the door for because in addition to collecting how many people live in a unit, they are also collecting information on vacant housing units. So it's also important for them to understand nobody lives in certain housing units because vacant units is really information that we use in our housing summaries and housing needs assessments. As a last resort, the Census Bureau is going to be allowed to use other government records, Medicaid, Social Security, even HUD records, but I want to be very clear that it's not a two-way street. The Census Bureau is mandated that they cannot share any information that they collect, not anything, with any other government agency. All right, so it's not that information, they will not be able to turn it around and share it with another government agency. You need to be, so the census on the left, I have Census 2020. Census 2020 will be a total of 9 questions. The courts have blocked the citizenship question last year, so generally it was 10 questions, but it is only 9 questions. What's your name? Where do you live? How old are you? What's your sex? Your relationship to the person, to the head of household? Your race and ethnicity? Do you rent or own the property? That's really all they're going to ask. And one of the messages we need to get out, particularly senior citizens, if somebody starts asking you more questions than that, it's not the Census 2020 form. There's only 9 questions. It should really take a matter of minutes. If you have your code for your housing unit, it should take a matter of minutes for people to respond to the census. However, at the same time that Census 2020 is going on, the American Community Survey is continuing to do their normal survey process. The American Community Survey, or ACS, as most of us know it, surveys about 300,000 households every month. And then they aggregate that data in 5-year averages and release it. So 5-year averages with only 300,000 households being canvassed a month is not truly very accurate data. particularly for lower demographic areas, lower villages like the village of Buchanan with only 800 and some odd housing units. It's not truly accurate. The margin of error just gives you that caution about using it. So the American Community Survey will continue to be going on. Some people may in fact get 2 survey forms. They may get this 9-question census as well as the American Community Survey. So we are reminding everybody that in case they do get a longer census form, it could very well be that it's the ACS or the American Community Survey. It's helpful to for folks to understand the confidentiality nature of their answers and their responses if they understand basic census geography. So we start in the middle of the slide with a census block. If I were to walk out of Village Hall, go to the left, go up to the next block, well, at some point, eventually I'd hit another block, make another right, come around, and I'd get back to Village Hall, to the main door. That would be a city block. Okay, so the person who lives across the street from you on your block is in fact in another block, unless you're in a cul-de-sac. A cul-de-sac would be slightly different. So based on that, the nature of your information by itself, you're in a different block. You don't even necessarily know which block each person is in. The Census Bureau, that aside, the Census Bureau never releases data at a block level. So your confidentiality is protected because particularly in areas where there are very few housing units, there's just no way they would ever release the data at that level. What they do, the lowest level of geography that they release is at the bottom of the screen, and that's the block group level. For CDBG purposes, we use block group data, all right, because we're able to get income data and other data based at that block group level. A block group level will have anywhere from 600 to 3,000 people with an optimum size of 1,500 people in a block group. But even block groups are then aggregated up to census tracts, which is the more common form of census information that people are familiar with. And so block groups have an optimum size of 4,000 people, but could really have anywhere between 1,200 and 8,000 people. But if you look at my original example, the block, if you lived across from the street on Glen Ridge Road, in the original example, you're in a different block, you're in a different block group. You might end up still in the same census tract, but again, your data with 8,000, potentially 8,000 people in that same census tract, your data is going to be protected. This is my number one reason why we are concerned at the county about getting an accurate census count. So in the summer of 2018, the county planning department, as well as many of the local municipalities, did a review of census addresses. One of the first things we did was took a look at all the streets that existed in 2010 and those that existed now closer in 2018, closer to the 2020 census, to see what new streets were created, what new streets expanded, and what streets disappeared, because redevelopment happens all the time. So based on our review and looking at all sorts of different records and even aerial and digital, Google Maps and other data, Google Earth, we found a total of 370,000 housing units. Officially in Westchester County, there are 345,885 housing units. We found 24,000 housing units more than the Census Bureau has records for. If that doesn't worry you about getting an accurate count, okay? Now, one of the things that we did was we took a step back and say, whoa, what's happening? Why is there such a disconnect with so many housing units? And in fact, we did find that there were 7 municipalities in Westchester who were not completing the monthly survey of building permit data to the local municipalities. Ossining Village, Ossining Town are all fine. They do it well, no problems there. But just as a head up, we did find 2 large cities, 2 large villages, and a large town that were not doing it. So in October of 2019, the planning department actually conducted trainings open to all the municipalities to remind them, because we all know there's turnover in all the building departments over the years, but to remind them why they do the monthly building permit surveys, why it's important, how the data gets used, and even how to complete the survey and how to go back and correct data if in fact you were doing it wrong. So that's not going to help us for the 2020 census, but it's going to help the planning commissioner of Westchester County in 2030 for the next census. But again, 24,000 addresses were found more than what the Census Bureau. That's the difference between Westchester County being over 1 million people and under 1 million people. So again, it's a significant number for us. One of the other things that we also do behind the scenes, because the county planning department is a census affiliate, and so we do work with the census Bureau to look at their information and to help them to make sure they have accurate information. On the example on the screen right now, you have the city of New Rochelle on the left, the town of Mamaroneck in the middle, and the village of Larchmont on the right. The blue lines are the boundary lines for those municipalities that the Census Bureau had a record for. The real municipal boundaries are the white lines. So we had to correct the data and the municipal boundaries that the Census Bureau had, so that the city of New Rochelle doesn't get credit for extra units and the poor village of Larchmont wasn't losing 2 whole rows of houses there. The village of Larchmont is very small to begin with, so it really does need every housing unit that it can get in its count. But again, this is all done data that's done behind the scenes in preparation for the census. The Census Bureau actually started working on the 2020 census in 2011. There's a lot of technology and a lot of work that had to get done to prepare for enabling the response online through multiple vehicles for people to be able to respond online. And so right now they are still in the last couple of weeks of their education campaign. This is where they're just trying to get out with their partners like the county to be able to get information out to people about the fact that the census is coming. Shortly, they will actually go into an awareness campaign that Census 2020 is here, and then it's going to be a motivation campaign. We got to get people to sign up. But I do want to let you know that they are actually starting to count people in January. In January, they're going to the most remote parts of the country where people don't have internet access, and they literally have to go through the wilds of Alaska to find some people who just don't even get regular mail service. But they have to count everybody. It's the law of the country. So in January, right now they are starting to count people around the country. In February, they are going to start counting in Westchester in the places that we call group quarters. Those are the prison, those are the nursing homes. Those are college dorms, okay? So places that have college dorms are in fact group quarters. They're going to get started to get counted not by the parents, not where the kids live for the other couple months of the year, but if your child lives in a college dorm, the school will be responsible for reporting for them, unless you are a day student at a college and you live in private housing. I do tell people
it's where you put your head on
the night of April 1st. Yep. So I do tell people that I have 4 children and I can't count any of my 4 children. My son and his wife are in their own housing unit. They're up on their own, so they'll report for themselves. But I have 3 daughters who are all students. My youngest is 19 and she's a student in Washington, D.C. She lives in a dorm. The school will count her, but I don't get credit for her. New York doesn't get credit for her. My 2 older girls, my twins, are 26. They are both graduate students. One's in Salt Lake City and one's in Boston. And they both live in private housing. They're not living in dorms. So because they are living in private housing, even though their licenses say they live in New York State, they are in private housing units in Salt Lake City or in Massachusetts. Recently, one of my daughters, the one in Salt Lake City, came home, and it was right before Thanksgiving, and she was asking, Mom, are you going to be home tomorrow night? And I said, no, I have to do a census presentation in Portchester, it was. And she turned around and she said, what's a census? My daughter, 26 years old, who said, what's a census? Now, think about it though. 10 years ago, she was 16. She wasn't filling out the census forms. Again, that's what we're worried about. There's a generation of kids who are now young adults, probably living in private housing units, who are now responsible for responding to the census. But think about it. These young kids, they don't look at their mail. They don't look at their mail. My kids will tell me, this story actually gets worse, okay? Because I actually had said to her, I explained what the census was, and she goes, oh, okay, all right. And she said, well, how am I going to get notice about it? And I said, well, you'll get a letter in the mail with the code for your housing unit. And she goes, okay. She said, but how are they going to know where my housing unit is? And I said, you have a door to your apartment. You might have a satellite dish for your TV. And she goes, Mom, we don't watch TV. I mean, I'm a little out of touch, I guess, with the younger generation. But but then I come to find out that my own daughter lives in illegal housing in Salt Lake City. She lives in an illegal apartment. Her friend created the apartment for her, and she likes it because of the yard for her dog. The priorities of young people. All right, they don't think about the fact that apartments are legal or not. It's got the basic necessities for it. And she's a student, she's a graduate student, so she just has limited resources, and that's the housing that she found. So anyway, just this, like as I said, there are young people across this country across the county, certainly, that we have to worry about. I was actually more worried about my other daughter because she's one of 3 graduate students who share one apartment. They don't really talk to each other. They're all working on their PhDs and they don't really interact with each other because they're even in different schools. And so I'm worried about which one's going to actually pick up the mail that day and get the code and respond, and whether they're going to be able to respond for all 3 or just think, well, I'm just here by myself. It's just me. That's the sort of thing we have to get the information out to young people. We've got Westchester Community College. We've got other, colleges and universities in Westchester where we've got kids that may not be living at home. They are in fact living in private housing. So we have to be really careful that we get the information out to them.
Just to be clear, in those 2 circumstances, your daughter who's living in Salt Lake City, the woman who's is subletting or whatever to her should be reporting that.
Should be reporting, or she actually will have the opportunity to call the Census Bureau or to go online and fill out her own census information and just report it as a separate household. She's her daughter. My daughter. She will just have to give herself her own address, rear, second floor, basement, whatever it is. All right.
With your other daughter, one of the roommates should be reporting 3 people live in the.
Exactly. 3 people live in one housing unit. Now, again, if one of them reports as living in apartment number 3, bedroom A, then somebody else can report as bedroom B and somebody else as bedroom C. So it doesn't preclude multiple people from responding in the event that there are unrelated persons living in units. But it is encouraged that there should be really one response because it is one housing unit that may have multiple unrelated people. And when I said earlier on, one of the questions you'll be asked is, what's your relationship to the person the head of household, the first person responded? One of the answers, one of the eligible responses is not related or unrelated. So the Census Bureau certainly recognizes that people have roommates, people that, are not related necessarily to the people that they may be sharing housing with. All right. So just one last important thing on here, 2 last things. The Census Bureau itself, people will have the opportunity to respond until the late July. At the end of July, the Census Bureau will close out the ability for any additional response because by law, they are required to deliver to the president on December 31st, the official count of the country. So 95% of households in this country, and likely in the county as well, will receive a census invitation by mail. 5%, and we did find out that there are some here in Westchester, if you live on a rural route or something, you do not have a mailbox in the front of your house, it will be likely that a census taker will come to your house and deliver your census form to you. You are not likely to get that invitation in the mail. Okay, when they come to deliver it to you, they actually at that time will offer the opportunity to just take your census so that you don't have to actually complete anything at that point. And then 1% is those most remote areas of Alaska and Maine where, they're already starting to send people out to go find these folks. I'm just thankful that's not a job I'd want going to Alaska or northern Maine in January. So this is an important bit of information. The invitations to respond to the census are going to start going out by mail from the Census Bureau starting on March 12th. I started by telling you April 1st is Census Day, but the invitations are going out starting on March 12th. In fact, by April 1st, you will have gotten 3 letters from the Census Bureau if you have not responded, 2 letters and a postcard. All right, the 4th mailing, only at the 4th mailing, which will go out after April 1st, if you have not responded to the first 3 mailings, only at that point will the Census Bureau finally send you a paper questionnaire. So for senior citizens who are concerned, they're not sure if this is a real letter, they don't know what to do, they don't have internet access, if they wait long enough, they will in fact get the form mailed to them and they will be able to do that. And then lastly, at the end of April, they will send out one more mailing, which essentially says it's not too late. Now, one of the questions that I get frequently asked is, what do we encourage people who may not be documented, may not be legal, what do we encourage them to do? The response is, if you do not want somebody knocking on your door, it's important that you respond to the census. Because if you do not respond, and they're going to know electronically by these codes which housing units have not responded, by the middle of April, they're going to start sending people out knocking on doors to be able to get the counts. We're particularly, again, concerned about senior citizens because with all the scams going on, senior citizens have been told, don't answer the door. So again, if they're not comfortable responding because they don't use the internet well and they're used to paper and they haven't responded, and then suddenly somebody's coming to their door and they're being told don't respond to the door. So that's where we're actually going to start doing trainings. We were working on the presentation today, actually, for senior citizens, what to ask for, the fact that every census employee has an ID, and then what you should not be asked for.
Now, for the town, we have a senior program.
Yes.
Come every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a great opportunity to have some laptops available. Is that something that the county might be able
Yes.
to offer?
Yes.
Okay.
The county executive is going to do a kickoff at the end of January, and we're going to have an important announcement at that time.
Okay.
All right. But yes, we are creating at this point a database of census hubs, places that there will be publicly available computers. And we are, in fact, looking to make farmers markets and festivals and other public locations and outdoor events even accessible with equipment so that people will be able to respond. Now, somebody cannot do the census response for you. All they can do is set you up on a computer and have you respond, but unless you specifically, allow somebody to assist you. But again, if the libraries, somebody from the executive director of the library system is on our complete count committee, and so they're working with the libraries to see if they might be able to keep extra hours a couple nights a week or something. And then we're going to try to see if we can engage some of the high school students who might need to do community service hours to staff those libraries, to staff the census centers. But we are going to be able to, we're going to create a list of census hubs. We're going to arm it to 211. So that if somebody needs or has questions about the census, we're just going to tell everybody call 211, because this way there's going to be consistent. They're going to have scripts of how to answer to the most, the basic questions that they're going to get. Where can I find a place to respond to the census? All right, but important date, the middle of March, the date that your invitation to respond will be coming out. If in fact like I'm going to go home tonight at whatever hour, I'll get home, go through my mail, and just say, none of it's important, I'm not dealing with it tonight. But if in fact you throw out the mail with your code, you will have the opportunity to still respond. You're just going to have to answer a couple extra questions so they can identify where in fact you are. The benefit of people responding online is that the data about the response rates is going to be it's going to be available to us almost immediately. They're telling us that in live time, starting at the end of March, we're going to be able to see what the response rate is like in each of our approximately 200 census tracts in the county. That's going to be good because we're going to be able to look and see where are the places in the county where the response rate is really low. Now, I'm going to show you a map in a little bit of the places from the 2010 census that were low. We'll talk about a couple of those issues because, again, those are some of our concerns. Yes?
Right. So, some housing, there's like a person who has made an apartment upstairs, downstairs, left, right, everywhere else. They get the letter. They may just answer for their own and not share it with any of the people. How do you work with that?
Which is why it's important for people to know that it's census day and you have an obligation, a legal obligation to respond to the census. So if people say, well, I never got a form, then they can either call the Census Bureau or go online anyway and just fill in their own information and get their, well, not their good, but again, they'll answer a couple extra questions to identify where their housing unit is. Okay?
That way, if in fact
somebody already responded,
there's 10,
there's multiple responses. Yes.
they can cross-reference.
So if people don't get that letter, again, the message has got to be, you still have an obligation to respond. Go ahead and get online anyway. Call the Census Bureau. They'll help you through it. Okay? So this is reason number 2 why I am really concerned. CBAMs. In anticipation of every census, the Census Bureau sends out a survey 2 years in advance that asks us some basic questions. It's the Census Barriers, Attitudes, and Motivators survey. So they sent the survey out in 2018 to 50,000 addresses. Only 17,500 people responded. They did the same survey in 2008. In 2008, in response to the question, how likely are you to respond to the census, 14% of the people who took the time to respond said that they were not going to respond to the census. In reality, 24%, an extra 10%, did not respond to the mailed census to them. Okay? In 2018, the response, again, of the 17,500 people who took the time to respond to the survey, 33% said they were not going to respond to the survey. If we add another 10% onto that, that means 4 out of every 10 people in this town, in this county, in this country are not going to be responding. Those numbers would be really hugely damaging. So that's, again, why we're extremely concerned about getting accurate numbers. The folks responding to the census, to the survey, were asked, how familiar are you with the census? Only 79% of the people who responded indicated that they were somewhat familiar or very familiar with the census. The others are my 26-year-old daughter and her cohorts. All right, they were asked, why won't you respond? All right, they don't care. Concerns about data confidentiality and privacy, the fear of what's going to happen if I do respond, distrust in the government, and frankly, what's in it for me. But they were also asked, what would motivate you to respond? And interestingly enough, 94% said if it meant more money for healthcare and hospitals and for fire departments, that would encourage them to respond. 85% said if it meant more money for our schools, that would encourage them to respond. And 92% said if it's going to fix the pothole outside, I'll respond. All right, so you got to, well, this informs us how to motivate people to respond. Tomorrow, our bus ads, if they haven't started already, our bus ads are going to start showing up on the buses and at some of the shelters in the county. We took a look at the areas where there was the highest rates of the hardest to count areas to make sure we were getting our shelters covered in those areas. But we put kids in school. We put senior citizens. We are linking it to things so that, again, we're informed by this information, what might motivate people to respond. So in 2010, I told you before that the response rate was 24% nationwide. The response rate in Westchester County was 73%. We were lower than the national average. But there were municipalities or in areas, this is by block group. So there are block groups across this county, all across this county, where we had a lower than average response rate. In fact, the darker the color, the bright red, means that less than 50% of the people living in that block group responded. Okay, responded to the paper census, and then somebody had to go and follow up. And so the village of Elmsford, the village of Portchester, and the city of Mount Vernon, more than 50% of those 3 municipalities have color. So they were really, well, those are certainly areas that we are extremely concerned about. Ossining certainly, as you can see from the map, has some significant areas as well, including, you don't have the bright red, but you've got certainly areas of concern. We had the county's complete count committee did some reconnaissance of each of these areas. And with the exception of that weird block group up in Yorktown, and I'm just saying weird just based on the housing that's there, pretty much all of these other areas are multifamily housing areas. So there are buildings of multifamily housing. So we're actually looking, again, informed by this, saying we've got to make sure we get to the land and the property owners, to make them multifamily building owners, to make sure that they're putting some kind of notice up by their mailboxes by the middle of March to warn people, then your letter's coming, your census is coming, watch for your mail, okay? But we can't get people to read their mail, okay? But all we can do is let them know that, again, something's coming. So these are the areas that we're most particularly worried about based on the response in 2010. The Rockefeller Institute of Policy actually did an analysis of the top 500 census tracts in Westchester. 500 they did. Remember, I told you there are 200 in Westchester? And of the top 500 census tracts of all of New York State, Westchester County had #1 of their hardest to count areas. It's actually in the city of Yonkers. So again, there's certainly cause for concern about our potential response. So on April 1st of last year, the County Executive Latimer did establish the county's complete count committee. We started with 21 members. We are now over 60 members. There has been such a tremendous interest and of this, certainly at the county level, but even at the local levels, I think we're up to over 20 local complete count committees. And certainly Ossining was actually one of the first ones to get started. So we do, thank you for your efforts as well, because when we get this data about the block or the census tracts in Ossining that have poor response rates, we're going to be able to call and say, what do we got to do? How do we inform? And Mario Garcia from the Community Partnership Specialist from the Census Bureau is actually here this evening. But we're going to want to tell Mario and his crew what's in that area, what's in that census tract, so they know who's the best person to send in there. We know in Yonkers there's a Ukrainian neighborhood, and in Mount Vernon there's a Haitian Creole neighborhood. So if the Census Bureau is informed by data like that, they can make sure they're sending somebody in who might speak the languages or whatever the issue is, and be able to engage in the cultural issues of certain communities and certain neighborhoods to get better responses. We are also still encouraging people to sign up to be census enumerators, census takers. Census Bureau is still hiring. They're going to be hiring over 6,200 people in the Westchester and Putnam area, paying $21 an hour. So anybody who's interested, 2020census.gov/jobs. Okay. So yeah, because what's more important than getting somebody to respond, or what's going to make it easier to get people to respond, is knowing that somebody they might know is on the opposite side of the door. Okay, so it's really important. We did establish 5 count committees within our complete count, just because we recognized that there was really special needs. For example, the youth, one of the Census Bureau tells us that one of the most undercounted groups was children under 5 from the last census. We know that by birth records. We know, there are birth certificates that are issued. So in fact, that was real. That's a real, and it goes across all data sets. So it's important for us to make sure that the libraries, the children's rooms, and the schools all get engaged. I tell people I learned how to recycle when my youngest daughter came home and said, "Mom, do you know how many millions of water bottles are in the ocean? Like you shouldn't throw away your garbage, you should recycle it." So if kids can come home and tell if we tell their parents, moms and dad, where the kid might be legal and mom and dad may not be, again, all the more it's important that you respond. We start to not just inform and help this census, but we're also educating our kids so that 10 years from now, there's not a new generation of 26-year-olds that don't know what the census is. Okay? And that's it. I thank you for your time and your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Here's a silly question. My kid came home for the weekend. His head's on my pillow on April 1st. Where does he get counted? He goes to school.
Where
he goes to school in Buffalo.
And he lives in a dorm, or he lives in private housing?
We'll say it's private housing.
Then he should really respond, because he's living in a housing unit. That unit is occupied. So because he's living there for the best part of the year, in reality, he really should respond there. Okay, college students are a little on the iffy side, but if they live in a dorm, they really need to get counted in the dorm. So that's why Westchester Community College is really where we have to get to the kids, and need to get to the kids at all of our schools who might live in private housing offsite.
So it doesn't really matter, private housing or dorm, they should be counted at school if that's where they're living predominantly.
But the school will report for the kids living in the dorm.
I see, got it.
So if you live in a dorm, you don't, as a young adult, you don't have to do anything.
Got it.
But if you live in their own apartment, they will need to respond for that apartment.
But either way,
you know exactly what I'm talking about. The kids don't check their mail.
Right. Are there any questions? Our complete count committee with our stakeholders has been meeting regularly, and I've attended a number of different presentations, and I just think that Norma gives a great presentation and a great explanation. And one of the things that we'd suggested was that to try to get to as many municipal meetings as possible, because we know lots of people, whether they come to the meetings or not, do watch our meetings at home. So yes, we're hoping that those of you who are watching this at home or tune in to the YouTube video of this after, see this and share how important this is with everybody that you know. And also remember not to throw out the census letter when it comes to you, to remember to make sure that you do whatever is easiest for you to get your self counted, and make sure that everybody else you know also does the same. Does anybody else have any questions, suggestions, thoughts, anything that we can do to make this broadly known and understood, and make sure that Austin does the best job we can to make sure everybody gets counted?
I think that we should highly publicize the number. 4 people not counted is $1 million of funding we don't get to help Ossining.
400.
400. Yeah.
400 people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
2,500. Right. So.
Right.
Each year, by the way. It's each year.
The data that Norma presented, it's $21 million that didn't come to us.
Right.
Yeah, $21 million could have helped.
That was Karen
Even
Victoria
spread,
in the
even
audience
spread
from the
over,
Village of Austin,
even
just
spread
for
over
those
10
who
years.
couldn't see her. Not
Audience
using the microphone like
participation.
she doesn't know. In any case, Thank you, Ms. DeTore, for that insight. Yes, so $21 million for, if you couldn't hear that on the microphone, is what presumably the Ossining lost out on. And again, I just want to reiterate that Ossining for fair funding and Ossining, parents have been working very hard to make sure that we get our fair share of foundation aid that comes through state. All of those, the base numbers for so much of that information comes from census data. So that is critically important for our education funding, as well as, like we said, sales tax, and mortgage
Hospital,
reporting,
education, road repairs,
everything,
all sorts.
right? Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are based on census numbers. So we really want to make sure that we get it right, because the righter that we get it, the better our representation, the better the funding, and the better services that we can provide to all of those who live here and call Ossining Briarcliff their home. Thank you so much for
Thank
all
you,
the
everyone.
time. Anybody else? Last minute questions, suggestions? Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Mario, thanks for joining. Hope to see you again. Thank you, Christy. Oh my God, that's so bright. Wow. No, it's fine. What? That's not even it? No. That's fine. Is that fine?
No, it's how it
Crazy
usually
bright?
is.
It is? Oh my God. I guess I
Is
got
what
used
it
to
is.
that low. Yeah. All right. So next up on our work session agenda is the discussion about town board liaison assignment. So our reorganization meeting is next week, and annually we assign liaisons from our board to a variety of different organizations, and we as Councilman Meyer, you were originally just sort of inherited Councilwoman DeTore, former Councilwoman DeTore's liaison ships, if that's a word. We're hoping that everybody can just say what they prefer going forward. There may be some better fits and shifts that we should be making here. I think that there probably are. So if I'd just like to open it up to discussion to the board, who's had a chance to look at these over the weekend, and make suggestions for some changes or whatever you'd like. Going once.
I'm happy with mine.
I'm happy with mine. They fit my background pretty well.
All right, so we don't want. I know that IFGA in particular was one that
You wanted to switch?
Karen had. You don't want to take that on?
It might
You
be
might
nice
know
to
what's
have.
going on.
I mean, but it might be nice to have someone else with a different set. But it's fine if you want me to switch that. It's fine.
Okay, I would suggest that would be an easier one for you, in my personal and humble opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Exactly. So, right. So wait, hold on a second. Let me just think, because I thought that there was something else that I thought was an obvious shift. No, I mean, you already have New York State, which I think makes sense. Historical Society. Was there any other? Interestingly, say it again. We don't. I'm just looking. We have Rotary on here.
What?
Rotary? Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about Lions. Well, that's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Which I'm
Being
going to
the
be
most
on.
important thing.
I'm going to be on it as again de facto, but I will certainly be there for
Same
all of
as
those.
comprehensive plan.
Yes, comprehensive plan. So comp plan is you. Okay. And what are you giving over? What are you giving to
Business development.
yes, I think that's a good one. Business development.
Largely inactive, but she definitely.
We need to
Yeah, she needs
yes,
to be
we are going to take that on again to revitalize that.
Northern's not interested in T-Town. I'd be happy to take that
Okie doke.
also.
All right. That's fine.
But
And anything else?
Community equity, is that going to be on here or is that? just
That's a good one. Yeah. Let's give
Mm.
you one more. Community equity. Thank you for adding that. Councilwoman Shaw, I assume you're saying yes to that.
I am,
Okey-doke.
yes.
Okay. And I'm only assuming that since you've already been helping out with that from your
Kat had asked us
experience.
to have a liaison.
CAP used to, and it was Northern for many years.
So do you want to talk to him about
Austin
that?
CAP.
But
Okay.
now that we have one again. Yeah.
Right. So Austin CAP, and then I think it should go to Northern, and then maybe we have we have co-liaisons.
Mhm.
Okay. So Austin CAP, co. Right, and then just trying to think if there's anything else.
So do you want to give me T-Town or make it co-T-Town?
Well, I'm
You're
already
co-T-Town.
co-T-town
Right.
because I'm an advisory board
Right, on everything. Oh, okay. Well, that's
member
helpful.
also. So, but I'm
Okay.
happy if you want to be a co-co.
Chocolate. I'm all for chocolate.
We can do co.
I think he'll be
I
fine
think
with
he'll
that.
be fine.
Gives him
Okay, so
cap
we're gonna
and-
we'll give him cap and we'll give you T-town. I think that's fine. Good.
Good.
Alrighty. All right. So, what are we
What did Craig
waiting?
end up with?
Hmm?
I'm just wondering.
Craig ended up with business development, and that was Jackie's trying to catch up with you.
With me? Good.
Okay.
More power to her.
All right. So I think that's good. Fantastic. Can I have a motion to adjourn the work session into our special meeting?
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. In that case, I guess we want to take a roll call here.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Councilmember Meyer, Councilmember Shaw,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg.
I am here.
Okay.
All right. So moving right along. I have some announcements and then we'll go into, we don't usually do liaison reports at a special meeting, so I think we'll skip those, but I do have a few announcements. So we have lots of exciting projects coming up in 2020, including our comprehensive plan. As many of you know, we received a grant from the state to help us update our comprehensive plan with sustainability elements. Our goal is to try to engage as many facets of the community as possible during this project, so we can vision for the future of Ossining with as much input as possible. You might remember that we solicited applications for the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee in December, and we received a number of impressive applicants. In late January, we will be interviewing these candidates and then appointing the committee shortly thereafter, and we will have an opportunity to discuss at work session what our makeup will be so that we can get to work. The first order of business will be to review a request for proposals for a planning firm to help us along with the process. In the meantime, check out the comprehensive plan page of the town's website and stay tuned for ways to get involved and engaged in the near future. The Austin documentary and discussion series starts out 2020 with a meditative film called Walk With Me on Thursday, January 9th at 6:30 p.m. at the Austin Public Library's Buddhist Theater. This film focuses on a community of Zen Buddhist monks and nuns who have dedicated their lives to mastering the art of mindfulness. Local experts on mindfulness will be featured as part of the Q&A, including Tenku Roof, a Tws Sm Buddhist priest, and I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, Lizette Morin Vale, and I probably pronounced her name wrong too, even though I know her very well, of Rising Ground, and the town's very own Honorable Benjamin Felcher Levitt. He can be often found meditating or practicing Tai Chi when he's not presiding from the bench in the Ossining Town Court. New York State Senator David Carlucci will be holding a senior advisory meeting on Friday, January 10th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Ossining Public Library. Senator Carlucci and his staff are always looking for opportunities to engage the community, especially our senior citizens, so this is sure to be an informative and helpful meeting. Just to distinguish between seniors in high school and seniors who are among our more mature folks, because he also does have or has had in the past groups of Ossining High School and Briarcliff High School students. The Ossining School District's Saturday Explore and Learn series kicks off again for the winter session on January 11th. Register now for the many offerings for your entire family. Visit OssiningUFSD.org to learn more. Then get ready for Eagle Fest with a free film screen of Bird of Prey at the Ossining Public Library on Saturday, January 11th at 2 p.m., sponsored by Teton Lake Reservation. This film by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology focuses on the great Philippine eagle and the efforts to save this species from extinction. I've heard great things about this beautiful cinematography, so don't miss it. And that is it for my announcements. I will ask if there are any liaison reports, if anybody has anything, or any other announcements. All right. Well, hearing none, I guess we're going right into our board resolutions.
Okay. Approval of minutes, special meeting December 17th, 2019. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby approves the December 17th, 2019 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
I guess that would be the motion. And is there a second?
I wasn't here for that one.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Personnel resignation. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby accepts with regret the resignation of intermediate clerk Spanish-speaking Anna Grana George, effective January 10th, 2020.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So we received word a few weeks ago that Anna Grana George from the town court is going to be leaving us for a better opportunity in another local court. Anna is such a familiar face to so many in the court. She assists with Spanish translations on a regular basis, and we are truly going to miss her. We wish her all the best in this new professional opportunity. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Personnel resignation. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby accepts, with regret, the resignation of Budget Officer Madeline Zahach, effective January 10th, 2020.
Is anybody willing to move?
Ugh.
Nope.
I am sorry. We're going to have to table this one.
Yeah, no. I can't do
With extreme regret.
that.
Yeah.
With
I
extreme
feel like
regret.
I'll do it.
I'll move it because you're going to be close and we can still bother you.
Fine. Second.
All right. Well, Maddie Zahach has been with the town of Ossining for nearly 10 years, serving as budget director, personnel director, assistant to the town supervisor, and employee extraordinaire. She has brought an amazing amount. I'm not going to be able to read. Okay, sorry. She has brought an amazing amount of her incredible heart to bear on this community, as well as her common sense budgeting skills, which she learned from her mom, who raised her here in Ossining, where she graduated from high school. Maddie went on to earn a bachelor's at the University of Buffalo, and we are lucky to have gotten her back from there because she loved it so much. Then she proceeded to get a master's in public policy and other stuff. I know I got it a little bit wrong. I forgot exactly, but I didn't want to ask her, from the New School. Besides loving cats, she also loves people, even though sometimes she pretends she doesn't. And she believes in the best of humankind. She has been instrumental in adding safety trainings and safety procedures to the town departments, looking for efficiencies in good times and in bad, understanding all of the inner workings of each and every department and even those that we don't have, and the benefits and challenges of each one of them, and finding ways to constantly improve service delivery for all those in the town, general, and the unincorporated town. She is our cheerleader and our moral compass, our social media guru, and our voice. She is truly an outstanding employee who works so hard every single day and has given so much of herself to us all. Maddie, it is with more than a little regret that we must accept your resignation. The best news for us is that you are going on to a wonderful opportunity working for the Village of Ossining as their new assistant village manager. Extremely well deserved, and as we know, and that you will literally be one floor down from us. So we wish you extremely well in your next adventure, and we know that with all you bring to the table, the village will be so well served by your intelligence, kindness, creativity, passion, singing voice, and devotion.
That sense of humor.
This is not goodbye, only adieu. Congratulations, and remember, we are only a ceiling tap away. Okay. Is anybody in favor of this at all? I'm sorry, we're going to have to table it again.
For Maddie's sake, aye.
Thieves. Aye.
Okay. Maddie, we would have done more for you, but you insisted that we don't do anything. So I'm sorry. But all those in favor, did we all vote? Did everybody vote already? Because I don't think I voted. All right. We all grunted aye, and we're not happy about it. It was unfortunately unanimous, and we're not happy about it. But tough, we're giving you a proclamation.
That you didn't have to
And
write.
we're not giving
Exactly.
you a cake because you're always yelling at us. You don't want this and that. We're giving you a proclamation which says pretty much what I said, but better, and adds very, 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 very importantly that we resolve that January 10th, 2020 be named Maddie Zahach Day in the town of Ossining in recognition of your continued service to the Ossining community. And we know it's going to keep on going, honey. So congratulations, everybody. Come up here and give this to her, even though we don't want to. And we're mad at you, but we love you. And we're very proud of you. All right, everybody.
Oh, I'll get on the other side.
Here. Here. Shuffle.
Very
There.
interesting.
Wait, you won't be next to
There.
me.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Not really in a good smile. Get that.
Smile.
Mm.
Thank you. Oh, stop.
You will.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. Hang this up in your village office.
Okay.
Don't let me leave it up.
Thank you.
Which we got a little sneak preview of today. Here's a box for you.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, they're trying to take her already? Great.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Do you want me to read this?
I think that's probably
Yeah, I'm
appropriate.
gonna read this one.
Resolution D, personnel promotion. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby promotes Victoria Caffarelli, Ossining, from the position of confidential secretary to the supervisor to the position of budget officer, effective January 13th, 2020, at a prorated annual salary of $80,000.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so as they say, when one door closes, another one opens. Victoria Caffarelli started working in the supervisor's office before I came on board. She came here with experience working for the clerk's office in Newcastle, even though she was still in college, and she hails from a long line of family members who have served our village, town, and school district. Also an OHS grad, she completed her undergraduate degree while in our employ, and then went on to earn her master's in public administration from John Jay College while simultaneously working for the town. She cut her teeth writing grants for the first time for the town, and over $1 million later of grant funds that we've gotten have come in through her good work. She has worked on many, many projects in the town, pinch hit as town clerk, helped get our records management in order, and continuing and has continued to do so, and worked very closely with Maddie to learn all that she has been doing. I'm confident Victoria will be able to fill these very large shoes soon, not immediately, because they are quite large indeed. And with support from our town staff, she will keep us rolling along smoothly into 2020. Victoria, congratulations on this well-deserved promotion, and let's all work together for an economically, environmentally, and physically and mentally healthy town of Ossining in 2020 and well beyond. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I hope not. Awesome. Congratulations,
Congratulations.
Victoria.
Thank you.
Do either one of you want to say anything now that we went through that? I didn't really give you a chance, but did you want to say anything?
I have had so much fun working with the town. I started when I was very 20, I think around your age, probably maybe a little bit younger. And it was super, super scary because I remember I started on a Wednesday and I came home on Friday night and I just cried and cried and cried. So I was like, they're crazy that they gave me this much responsibility. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I grew to love it and learned so much from so many people here. And I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to work alongside. And Victoria is going to do amazing. She is such a fast learner. She's so pleasant. She's going to do a great job. So it's the happiness will continue.
We're so proud of you. You've really given so much to the town. We're very, very, very proud.
I guess I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited to get started. This is kind of all I've ever done. I started interning for Assemblywoman Sandy Gales' office when I was in 8th grade. So I've been working towards this for a long time, and so I'm very excited to get started and learn more. And thank you very much to Maddie for teaching me a whole lot. And yeah, I'm excited, so thank you.
And my board colleagues, is there anything anybody would like to add?
We're excited to have you. It takes away the sting a little bit.
And is
I am very confident that Victoria will do an amazing job. She's been quite an asset to our office, and you know, the grant writing is impressive to say the least. And I'm very excited and looking forward to working with you, but I'm gonna miss Maddie too. You've just been the way you're on top of everything and really handle everything with a smile and a sense of humor has been a breath of fresh air and appreciated. You always have the answer whatever time of day or weekend I call you, and you know, just know that happens. So
I'm ready.
it's whenever it is. You gotta act. So, thank you for your patience and teaching me what I know, and thank you for continuing to fulfill her shoes.
As the new person on the board, I think you both have been tremendously helpful to me. So I thank you and I congratulate you both. It's awesome.
and Maddie, we really are super excited for your next big move. It is a big move, and we know that you're going to be jumping right into it. So we're happy for the village, and because we work so closely with the village all the time, we really aren't going to miss you. That because we're going to have you still. We feel like we're going to have you still. I mean that sincerely. We feel like, you know, we do work very closely, and we're going to continue to do so, and it'll make it just that much easier because we all have an understanding of how we work so well together. So looking forward to it. Did you want to say anything? I don't know. Just give me an opportunity.
I don't even really know what to say. I don't know this town and this job without you, and I think you could probably say that for all the people sitting up here. So it's going to be a learning curve for us, and not one that we're particularly happy about, at least not me. But Victoria, I mean, is great, and she just continues to impress and excel, and so I'm sure we'll be fine. But you're lucky when the people you work with are also your friends.
So mean.
You started
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
What's the next
Next.
resolution?
Next resolution, a new friend.
Okay.
Yes. Personnel appointment. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining appoints Albin Silage Peekskill to to the probationary full-time position of park groundskeeper, step 1, effective January 2nd, 2020, at a prorated annual salary of $61,105.
Good motion.
So moved.
Second.
So despite a lot of other bittersweet news, we recently welcomed a new face to the Town Parks Department. After an extensive application process, we are excited to be welcoming Alvin Silage on board as our new parks groundskeeper. Alvin worked for the Village of Ossining DPW for a few years, so he has jumped right in as if he was here all along. Welcome, Alvin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Awesome.
Okay. Resolution retaining attorneys to represent the town. Resolve that the supervisor is authorized to execute an agreement retaining Silverberg's Lantis LLP to provide general legal services to the town of Ossining for 2020.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, just as an annoying technicality, it's LLC.
Oh, okay.
LLC.
All right, as amended. We are very excited to be keeping Silverberg's Atlantis LLC and our beloved town council, Christy Tomadonna, on for another year. Questions, discussion?
Thrilled they're willing to put up with us.
We absolutely, really, really, really value all that you bring to the town and your guidance and your counsel. And we greatly appreciate it. It's really been another very strong relationship. So we're glad for that. All those in favor? Aye. Extra votes. Okay.
Resolution retaining special counsel to represent the town. Resolve the town supervisor is authorized to execute an agreement retaining Stephen P. Dewey Esquire to provide prosecutorial services and tax certiorari assistance to the town of Ossining for 2020.
Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So as our former town prosecutor, Honorable Ben Levitt, was elected to start his term as our new town justice on January 1st, we are in the market for a new prosecutor. Stephen Dewey, who has a law practice in Ossining, submitted his resume for consideration, and we think he has the right expertise to serve the town very well. Any discussion?
He's been a part of the Ossining community for a long time, and I am excited that he will be joining us.
I believe the Ossining Fire Department. Is that correct?
He's everywhere.
He really is. He's given very much.
He's very much a part of the fabric of the community, and I think the community will be well served with somebody who understands it that well.
All right, fantastic. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Food scrap recycling program, T-Town Lake Reservation. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign an agreement with T-Town Lake Reservation, Inc. for an educational campaign associated with the town's food scrap recycling program in the amount of $28,800 to be funded by a grant from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We are getting so close to launching our food scrap recycling project here in the town of Ossining, and this contract with T-Town is one of the final loose ends. As you might remember, we received a nearly $100,000 grant from the New York State DEC to implement this program over 3 years. Part of the grant funds will be going to T-Town Lake Reservation to assist with community engagement, and T-Town is offering some of their services as a match for the grant as well. T-Town is uniquely positioned to assist with this program, and we are excited to have them on as a partner. Stay tuned in the coming weeks for more information about this program and how to get involved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Okay, we have a few monthly reports. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of December 2019. Town Supervisor's Office and Town Building Department.
Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And finally, visitor recognition. Anybody here to address the board? Hearing none, might I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for advice of counsel?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much. We are going to see everybody next week at the courthouse at 7:30 for our annual reorganization meeting. And we look forward to speaking with all of you before then, if need be. You know that you can always call the supervisor's office at 762-6001. While I don't hold bi-weekly meeting times like the mayor of Ossining does, that's because I work every single day for the town, so you feel free to call anytime. We're here for you. Thanks and have a great night, everybody.